A billionaire returned home without warning and was completely paralyzed when he found the housemaid with his son in a situation he never imagined. The aroma of fresh basil floated in the air like an invisible caress. The golden rays of the sunset filtered gently through the penthouse windows, creating a mosaic of light and shadow across the Italian marble in the kitchen. At the center of this nearly perfect scene, a huge stainless steel pot rested on the switched-off stove, surrounded by fresh vegetables as if it were the set of a luxury cooking show. But inside that pot, there was no soup. There was a baby, a small child of barely 14 months, with hair as golden as wheat and cheeks flushed from the heat, splashing happily among sprigs of parsley and tiny zucchini. His crystalline laughter filled the space, while his chubby hands played with a baby carrot. Above him, frozen like a statue of salt, stood Maria Torres, a 32-year-old Dominican woman with cinnamon-colored skin and honey eyes. Her impeccable uniform, white with navy blue details, contrasted with the absolute terror that crossed her face when she heard the door slam. The main door burst open with a crash that made the crystal glasses in the bar tremble. Daniel Herrera, a 41-year-old real estate magnate, appeared in the doorway like a human storm. His Armani suit wrinkled from the transatlantic flight, his black hair disheveled, and his green eyes burning with disbelief as he processed the scene before him. His son, his only son, in a pot with vegetables. "What the hell?" His voice cracked in the air like falling glass. The leather briefcase slipped from his hand and crashed against the marble floor with a hollow echo. Maria flinched as if she had received an electric shock. "Mr. Herrera, wait, I can explain? Are you crazy?" Daniel's roar echoed through the house like the roar of a wounded lion. His legs shook as he ran toward them, nearly slipping on the polished tiles. "Get him out of there! Get him out of there right now!" With trembling, precise movements, Maria lifted little Lucas from the pot. The boy, oblivious to the drama, kept laughing and stretching his arms toward a sprig of cilantro dripping warm water. His blue eyes sparkled with the innocence of someone who saw the world as one big amusement park. "It's not what it looks like," Maria murmured, cradling the baby against her chest, her voice breaking like wet paper. "Then what is it?" Daniel roared, his face reddening like a poppy. The veins in his neck bulged like cords. "You put my son in a pot like he was an ingredient." "I was giving him a medicinal bath," Maria screamed back, an unusual fury igniting her usually soft voice. "He had a horrible rash. The pediatrician recommended warm baths with natural herbs to soothe his irritated skin." "You don't put a child in a cooking pot!" Daniel's words shot from his throat like bullets. "The stove was off." Maria raised her voice for the first time in 5 years of working there. Her breathing quickened as she fought to control her emotions. "Please, I would never hurt him. Never." Daniel's hands shook uncontrollably. "Why were there tomatoes? Carrots? Do you realize what this looks like? Do you realize what I thought when I walked in?" Tears began to roll down Maria's cheeks like silent rain. "He loves it. He thinks it's a game. Dr. Ramirez approved it. Call him if you don't believe me." At that moment, Lucas let out a squeal of pure joy, pulling at a cilantro leaf stuck to his little belly. His blue eyes shone as he babbled unintelligible sounds, completely unaware of the emotional storm raging around him. Daniel looked at his healthy, radiant, happy son. Then he looked at Maria, who struggled to maintain her composure, while holding the child as if he were the most precious thing in the world. A dense silence settled between them, charged with electricity. "Who gave you permission?" His voice lowered to a venomous whisper. "To experiment on my child like he's some kind of science project?" Maria's jaw tightened. Her honey eyes hardened like amber. "No one had to give me permission. You weren't here." The silence that followed was deafening, as if the entire world had stopped breathing. Daniel blinked, incredulous. "What did you just say?" "You weren't here," Maria repeated, her voice now firm as a rock. "You've been gone for 7 weeks. No calls, no messages, not a single word. Lucas needed care, attention, love, and I gave him that." Daniel's expression twisted like metal under pressure. Confusion, shame, and rage waged war in his green eyes. Maria gently rocked the baby, who was beginning to show signs of sleepiness. "I didn't expect you to return," she murmured, her words falling like stones into still water. "No one did." Daniel turned his gaze away, processing the words as if they were in a foreign language. "You're just the housemaid," he muttered, more to himself than to her. "I'm the only one who's been here since Clara died," Maria replied, each word deliberate and precise, like an arrow hitting its target. "Don't reduce what I've done to a job title." For the first time, Daniel really looked at her. He saw her trembling hands, her exhausted eyes lined with dark circles that makeup could not fully hide. He saw how the baby's arm curled naturally around Maria's shoulder, as if that were his rightful place in the world. The absurdity of the initial scene began to crumble under the overwhelming weight of reality. "I need a moment," he muttered, stepping back. "You've had plenty of moments," Maria whispered through clenched teeth. "What did you say?" She shook her head. "Nothing, sir." Daniel turned and stormed out of the kitchen like a hurricane, muttering something about needing fresh air. Maria remained in the kitchen, clutching Lucas to her chest. Her knees felt like jelly, her throat like sandpaper. She looked at the vegetables scattered around the pot, then at the baby's face, now curling into a sleepy smile. "You just couldn't wait until nap time, could you, my love?" she whispered, brushing a golden curl from his forehead. A solitary tear rolled down her cheek, but she did not let go of the child. Daniel paced back and forth in his study, pressing his temples so hard his jaw ached. The cold marble beneath his bare feet contrasted with the fire burning in his chest, but all he could hear was Lucas's laughter and the echo of Maria's voice. "You weren't here." He wanted to scream. He wanted to break something, shout at someone, at her, at himself, at the universe. Instead, he collapsed into his Italian leather chair and stared into nothingness. He had flown to Dubai to close the biggest real estate deal of his career. 4 weeks had turned into 5, then 6, then 7. The Arab investors needed him. The board pressured him. And all that time he convinced himself not calling was the right choice, because, after all, what does a baby even miss? "A pot," he muttered, running his hands over his face. "My God!" Then he heard footsteps, not hurried, not fearful, just steady. Maria appeared in the doorway holding Lucas, now dressed in cotton pajamas, with tiny elephants printed on them, chewing on a silicone teether. His blue eyes were heavy with sleep. "I put him down for his nap," Maria said. Her voice was neutral, like distilled water. Daniel nodded slowly. They remained in silence for what felt like an eternity. "I'm not going to report you," he finally said. Maria arched an eyebrow. She hadn't expected that. "I was angry," he admitted, standing up, "but also confused. You have to understand how that looked." "I understand," she replied. "But you also need to understand something. Lucas has been crying for you every night. Every time he hears a car, he looks down the hallway. Every time the phone rings, he stretches out his little arms like he thinks it's you." Daniel looked away as if her words burned him. "I don't know what kind of father I thought I was being, but my silence didn't protect him from my absence." "That's not fair," he muttered. "What's fair is that you left him in my care 2 days after Clara's funeral and disappeared. No goodbyes, no instructions, just your credit card on the table," Maria said, her words sharp as knives. Daniel's chest rose and fell like a bellows. "I didn't know how to face him after Clara." "Neither did I," Maria interrupted, her voice trembling like a leaf in the wind. "She was my friend too, and yet I showed up." Daniel lowered his gaze. "You're right." Maria blinked, surprised. "You're right," he repeated more firmly. "I told myself work needed me, but the truth is, I couldn't look at Lucas without seeing Clara. I didn't know how to hold a baby without feeling like I'd drop him." Maria's lips parted slightly. "I came back today because I missed him. I thought maybe I was ready." Maria crossed her arms. "Then be ready. He needs you." Daniel walked to the window and looked out at the perfectly manicured gardens, his ghostly reflection in the glass. "I thought having money meant I could buy time, buy help, buy forgiveness." She remained silent. But walking in today, seeing him happy, safe, even if it looked insane, I realized I've missed everything that really matters. He turned to her. "How do I fix this?" Maria let out a deep sigh. "Babies aren't something you fix, Mr. Herrera. You just show up for them." He nodded. "I want to be involved now. I mean it. Can we start over?" Maria studied him with eyes that had seen too much pain. "Not for me. For Lucas." A long silence stretched between them like an invisible bridge. Then Maria turned toward the hallway. "Come." "Where?" She looked back. "He won't sleep long, and when he wakes up, he'll be looking for someone." Daniel followed her. The baby's room was an oasis of softness and warmth. The crib rocked gently to the tune of a music box. Lucas stirred slightly, sucking on 2 little fingers, his eyelashes fluttering like butterflies. Daniel stood over him, unsure. "Can I hold him?" Maria nodded. "Support his neck. Don't rush." With trembling hands, Daniel leaned down and gently lifted the boy. For a moment, Lucas squirmed, then nestled against his father's chest with a soft sigh. Then, total calm. Daniel's breath caught. His arms instinctively tightened, his eyes closed. Maria stepped back silently. "I forgot how small he is," Daniel whispered. She smiled faintly. "Wait until he throws a spoon at your face." He chuckled softly, tears sliding silently down his cheeks. "I'm sorry," he whispered to Lucas, "for everything." The baby stirred but didn't wake, just rested. Maria turned to leave, but Daniel called out, "Maria." She turned. "Thank you for loving him, for staying even when I didn't." She nodded once. "I didn't do it for you." "I know. That's why it means more." Maria looked at the man holding his son. No longer the billionaire, no longer the absent father, just a man learning too late, but trying anyway. And maybe, she thought, that was enough to begin. The following days were like learning to walk again after an accident. Daniel canceled all his international meetings and even fired his assistant when she tried to reschedule a flight to Tokyo. "No more trips for now," he said, his voice firmer than ever. The first morning, Lucas woke up crying at 5:30. Daniel stumbled out of bed, not knowing what to do. Maria appeared at the doorway of the master bedroom, but she didn't move. "What does he need?" Daniel asked desperately. "You'll know," she replied simply. "Listen to him." It took Daniel 40 minutes to figure out that the baby was hungry, another 30 to prepare the bottle correctly. Maria watched from a distance, intervening only when Lucas was about to fall or when Daniel looked completely lost. "Why won't you help me?" he asked in frustration on the third day, after Lucas refused to eat banana puree for the 10th time. "Because I won't be the one here forever," Maria answered, her words like sharp knives. "You will." That afternoon, while Lucas dozed in his arms, Daniel found Clara's diary. Page after page of thoughts about her pregnancy, her fears, her dreams for her son. In one entry, dated 2 weeks before her death, she had written, "Daniel will be a wonderful father when he learns to be present. I just hope he understands that Lucas doesn't need an empire. He needs his dad." Tears blurred the page as he read. A week after the pot incident, Daniel went down to the kitchen at 6 in the morning and found Maria preparing breakfast. Lucas sat in his high chair, clapping as she cut strawberries into tiny pieces. "Maria," Daniel said, his voice hoarse with fatigue, "I need to ask you something." She turned, keeping her distance. "Did Clara talk to you about me before she died?" Maria set the knife down on the cutting board, her eyes filled with an ancient sadness. "Every day," she whispered. She was terrified of leaving him alone, afraid you would get lost in your work and never really come back home. Daniel collapsed into a chair. She was right. She also said you were the kindest man she knew, but that you'd forgotten how to be him. Lucas began to cry, and for the first time, Daniel stood up automatically, picked him up, calmed him, and gently wiped his face. Maria watched, a sad smile curving her lips. "She would be proud," she murmured. That night, Daniel called his sister in Spain. "Elena, I need to tell you something. About Clara, about Lucas, about everything I've done wrong." The conversation lasted 3 hours. Elena cried, yelled, forgave him, and even offered to move in to help. "No," Daniel said. "This is something I have to do myself." A month after his return, Maria found Daniel in his study at midnight, surrounded by legal papers. Lucas slept in a bassinet next to his desk. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Changing my will," he replied, "creating a college fund for Lucas that doesn't depend on business." He hesitated. And what?" "Making you his legal guardian in case something happens to me. I want you to know your family, Maria, not just an employee." Maria placed a hand on her chest, her eyes filling with tears. "I'm also selling 2 of the overseas properties. We don't need them. What we need is time." 6 months later, Daniel had learned how to make airplane noises with the spoon to get Lucas to eat, to tell the difference between a hunger cry and a sleepy one, and to read stories with silly voices that made his son laugh until his belly hurt. Maria still worked for them, but now it was different. She was respected, valued, heard. Daniel had tripled her salary and given her 2 weeks of paid vacation to visit her family in the Dominican Republic. One Sunday afternoon, while Lucas played in the garden under their watchful eyes, Maria broke the silence. "Do you know what would have happened if you hadn't come back that day?" Daniel looked at her. "No. I would have kept taking care of him as if he were mine, because I love him as if he were mine." "I know. and that's why I'll never be able to repay you what you truly deserve." Maria smiled. "It's not about money, Mr. Herrera. It's about Lucas having the family he deserves." Daniel watched his nearly 2-year-old son running among the flowers on his chubby little legs, shouting, "Daddy!" Each time he stumbled and needed help, Daniel's heart filled with a warmth he had forgotten existed. "Thank you," Daniel said softly, "for saving my family when I didn't know how." Maria nodded, watching as Lucas threw himself into his father's arms with complete trust. "You're welcome," she whispered. "But remember, you're the one who chose to stay." And as the sun set over the garden, Daniel realized he had found something more valuable than all his real estate empires. He had found his way back home. Did this story of redemption and family touch your heart? Give it a like if you believe it's never too late to change. Tell us in the comments, do you know someone who transformed their life for love? Subscribe for more stories that will remind you that true bonds are life's greatest treasure.